tell the guys, we're thin but mighty. Anybody that's ever asked about our program over the last few years, I've been saying the same thing. And
Princeton's always been a tough football team. You know, one thing about us is we're going to play tough. We love to hit. You know, hitting is like preached, and it's like the gospel in Princeton.
I don't want to have all these rules and all these things that you got to try and memorize. Just the word all in. All in.
There was a lot of, lessons being learned. But I got a group of guys who want it, and the biggest thing is sometimes they just don't know how.
It was certainly emotional, no doubt about it. It always is between us and Ocean City.
I don't like losing. The kids don't like losing. And I don't want to lose to the same team over and over and over again. We want to win a state championship.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Cal One-on-One right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. As we roll on with our basketball preview series, the regular season about to tip off, but can't do a preview show without John Bruno of Ocean City. Coach, appreciate you joining me. Looking forward to watching you guys this year. It's a bit of a new look for your Red Raiders this year, coming off a very strong 2024 season, 26-4 South Jersey finalists, but again, new look this year. I got to imagine it's been a very interesting offseason for you guys in Ocean City.
Well, it certainly has, Nick. But first, I want to reiterate what all the coaches have been saying. I really appreciate what you do. What these kids get with the exposure you give them is just tremendous. I can't thank you enough for what you've done. Last year was one of those special years. Every coach hopefully gets to experience it every once in a while. 26 wins, which was, a school record, senior leadership of Corey Segich and Dylan Schlatter and Charlie LeBar and Pat Grimley, who are, all playing either lacrosse over at Harvard or the rest of them are playing basketball, 2 at Widener, 1 at Camden County Community College. So it was a special year. So basically what we're doing is we're going to start over, and we got Ben McGonigal back, which will be a great help.
Without a doubt, you mentioned Ben McGonigal ahead of when we were supposed to talk today, and he was a key player for you last year. I mean, you alluded to all your seniors last year, which was the core, essentially the core 4 of that special team last year. But he was getting his minutes, got his valuable time, put up 100 points in total last year. I got to imagine, because he's a returning starter, are you looking at him to be that de facto leader this year to bring this new group together as you lead into 24-25?
Oh, Nick, there's no question about that. Ben last year was your consummate role player. He knew his role. He was very effective in what he did. He complimented the players very well. But this year, he's got to be the guy that we're looking to. He not only runs the team, but we're looking for him to score a little bit. He's the guy that's going to be doing most of the ball handling. He is basically our team leader. And his game against Mainland in that South Jersey final really was a nice springboard. I think he had 15 points in that game, which knew that he could score a little bit, but he still needs to do those other things that make him a valuable asset to our team.
As he keeps improving, you also alluded to Jack Porter, who was a bit of a role player for you last year. He's going to obviously see an increase in minutes. What have you seen from him in the offseason, how he's developed now going into this pivotal season?
No question that Jack's going to have to step up more this year. He's not one of those dual athletes, which I always appreciate. He's coming off a good football season where he got stronger. Try hopefully get a little bit faster and then, work on his skills as we go along. But again, I think his role is going to be more key leadership on and off the court. And so as he steps into his new role, I think he's ready and welcome for the challenge.
What was the biggest challenge? And I'm glad you brought up the word challenge. What was the biggest challenge for you when you look at last year's squad? You developed those kids through essentially 3 to 4 years of all playing with each other. It culminates into a great year like that, where you make a run in the Cal tournament, make a big run in the South Jersey Group 3 playoffs, and you have memories that are last a lifetime. And as you said before, that's a special team that you hope coaches at least have one of those teams during their coaching careers. How did you transition? What kind of challenge was it to go from, wow, that was my last game with these guys, and now I'm looking ahead to about 6 months from now where we have to essentially restart? There's some key guys back, but it's going to look totally different next winter.
Well, to say it's going to look totally different is an understatement, but I think what it really starts with is you really need to have a good feeder program. And Brian Gittles, our JV coach, who did a wonderful job with these kids that are stepping up. As a JV team, they were very successful. And we're hoping that leads into success at the varsity level. But, as it goes along, a JV game is a little bit slower, not as strong a player. So the adjustment for those younger kids is really going to be the key, because we pretty much going to be playing 5 or 6 juniors. We have a sophomore. It's going to be, getting some minutes. So as the game goes on, they're going to see it got a little bit faster. They're going to have to get a little bit stronger. They'll probably hit some bumps along the road. as we go along through the season. But as I've always told the kids, my reward to the seniors is let's make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And now the way that the playoff system is set up, unfortunately or fortunately, you don't have to win a whole lot of games to make the playoffs. And that's really all I care about. Then when you make the playoffs, you see where you are and what kind of seed you get and worry about it then. But that's my hope, is that they progress as the year goes on.
When you talk about getting faster, stronger, and again, for those who didn't really play basketball at the high school level or are not too familiar with the big jump from JV to varsity in pretty much any high school sport, you mentioned how the game's a little bit slower. It's not as physical, although these kids can be, because they're trying to get ready for the varsity level. How do those kids make those jumps and those strides in the summer, in the preseason? What do they do? Is it just the simple stuff? It's, hey, just keep practicing, keep lifting, or is there something else that you tried to ingrain in these kids because you have to make a big jump this coming season with a totally different group?
Well, of course, you want to emphasize lifting. I don't do an organized lifting program. You tell the kids to lift, but I'm going to restate what I said earlier. I've got kids playing football. I've got kids playing soccer at the varsity level. So they saw football at the varsity level. They saw soccer at the varsity level. So they know what to expect. They may not know what to experience yet, but they can anticipate what they need to do, because on the soccer field, they had to be faster and be stronger. And on the football field, they had to be faster and they had to be stronger. So I think that's the key. And that's why I always emphasize, athletes should play sports, because sports play sport. You want to ask me, go play football, go play, lacrosse. Pat Grimley last year, was a Division I lacrosse player, yet he was a vital player on our basketball team. So he got stronger that way. So staying athletic, staying mobile, doing things, using different muscles to get faster and stronger is the key, I think, to kids' success.
What have you noticed throughout the preseason? Again, you guys open up in a couple days at St. Augustine Prep. You have another road game at Wildwood Catholic this coming week. When you go through the preseason, you're trying to mesh in your scheme, your concepts, whether they're offensively or defensively. When you have little experience coming back, do you take yourself, do you step back for a second and say, all right, let's start from the fundamentals here. Let's kind of we'll hit the reset button on that stuff as well. Or because the kids are in the system, so to speak, they kind of know what to expect. And then it's just a gradual process from there.
Well, I think the most important thing is you got to take a look at your team. What do you think? Last year, I pretty much played 5 guys. They were a Fab 5 and they did a great job. This year, I actually have a choice of, say, 7, 8, 9 guys that I'm going to be able to use. Now the question is, where is their role? And that's what's been the hardest thing in the preseason. See who's moved up, who's jumped over people, who's gotten, a little bit better. And that's why I think the routine of who I'm using is going to change from time to time until we settle on a good rotation. So right now the practices are competitive. You got guys fighting for spots. You got guys fighting to make each other better, which is always a key when you have a team. So depth, something I did not have last year and had fairly good success. Now this year, I think I'm going to have to use that depth to help our success this year.
I'm glad you mentioned competition in practice, and not to say you didn't have it last year, because again, but you just mentioned you had your Fab 5 last season, so you knew who's going to be out on the floor, but those guys were pushing each other, and the guys behind them, they're, for depth purposes, or the young bucks, they're trying to push the older guys because they want to get to that level later in the year or the following season. Have you noticed I don't know if it's maybe more competition in practice this year, but maybe a different type of competition in practice this year, where these kids are fighting for spots, but they're also simultaneously trying to make each other better because there are more unknowns with this team this season?
It's definitely a learning process. I think that sometimes they feel that a certain 5 or 6 guys might be the guys I'm always relying on, but I've always tell them every day in practice is what you do in practice is what's going to change things in games. Some of these players who kind of are unhappy that they're not playing practice that way. Well, how are you going to get into the lineup if you're not practicing that way? So we're adjusting to that. Not that they do it in a negative way, but they got to realize, hey, if you want this kid's spot, work hard to take it, because if you do, you're making him better. And then therefore you'll end up making the team better. So you want competitiveness at practice. And I think we're going to see that this year.
You've been a coach for a long time, especially at Ocean City, and the rise of your Red Raiders squads over the last couple of years, particularly last year, again, where it all culminated. Mainland was the same way, where you two, again, rivals, guys battled all season long, but they're undergoing a bit of a rebuild and a restart this year, of course, with a new head coach in Dan Feld after Dan Williams stepped down. When you see these waves as a high school coach, I'm sure you've experienced them before, whether it could have been 7 years of success, then 3 years of downward trot, and then all of a sudden you're back on the up and up. when you see these waves, are you used to being able to manage waves like this, or was last year almost an extreme example because of how good that team was last year?
No, I think you realize that high school is waves. I think that's an excellent way to put it. A good friend of mine, Joe Fenton, always reminds me that some people say that I'm the winningest coach in Ocean City. He's quick to remind me that I'm the losingest coach in Ocean City history also. So the bottom line is we've had some 6-win seasons, some 8-win seasons. The question is, how competitive are we during that season? Everybody wants to win. I don't think there's any question about it. But I think in high school sports, in many schools, you'll see a team get a 2-3 year run. Then they'll be competitive, but they're not winning at the high level you expected, but they're competing. Like, don't be surprised that Mainland's going to compete. They're not lose too much of a step going from, Dan Williams to Dan Feld. They'll compete. They're going to play hard. They're going to play defense, which they've always been known for. And yet they may not have the success of last year's team. So I don't like to compare one year to the next year. The question is, are you competitive within this year? And that's what our league is. I think we have a very competitive league.
It's interesting you mentioned that because you go back over especially the last couple of years where, the St. Augustine Prep's always been pretty good and, near the top of the entire Cape Atlantic League. But, EHT made the state final a couple of years ago. They went through a rebuild last year. Now they might be back on the up and up this year. Then it seems like you guys and Mainland are now in that situation this year where you make big runs and then here's a whole new set of guys. So when you see that, are you just like, this is just typical of our program, every other program, and it's maybe the uniqueness of this league where you'll see a lot of teams at the top, as you just said, for 2 to 3 years. Then they have to take another year or two before they get back to that level. Are you noticing that around here more so than maybe some of the other leagues that you are aware of throughout the state?
I can only speak for our league, and I would absolutely agree 100%. And by the way, don't forget, St. Augustine is going to be back up towards the top of that list.
Oh, of course, every year.
Let's not forget about that. But that's what I'm saying. I always tell people that regardless of what your record is, you're in competitive games in the Cal every night. So when the playoffs do come, when you're meeting a team outside the Cal, sometimes we end up facing the Cal like we did with Mainland, it's going to be competitive. But I think we're prepared for that. And I do think it goes each year, you're going to see somebody different in the playoffs that you didn't think was going to be there at the beginning of the year. And I just think that's the epitome of high school sports, is that the fluctuation of up and down. It's hard to be at the top every year. So you enjoyed, like I said, I enjoyed the years that we've had the last couple of years, and then we just wait to see what's going to happen in the coming year.
When you talk about enjoying coaching these kids, and you can't. I find it hard to believe that you can do it this long without enjoying coaching a new set of kids pretty much every single season. So when you look back at your career from the beginning up to this point, now I could probably talk to you about that for about 2 hours. But when you look at, I guess, a way to sum it up, what still drives you to keep coaching these kids and again, hit the reset button this year. So it's going to look vastly different than the last couple of years. And it's a whole new set of challenges. What keeps you going as a coach year to year at this point?
The kids, without question. We've had really great kids. And I know every coach says that. But if you say that and you mean it, then you want to be around them. I've been teaching for 42 years, and I enjoy going to school every single day. And I've been coaching. This will be 36, and I enjoy going to practice every day. Regardless of the success, I love being around the kids, the fun we have, the friendships I've gained over the years, the weddings I've been to, the babies I've seen born. It's the kids that make me, and also the coaches, which is kind of changing. The guard is changing a little bit. Paul Rodeo might be the longest reigning, obviously the longest reigning, but after that, it's their turn to have their routine of their friends and their compatriots is who they're competing against night in and out. But it just really is the kids.
I really love that answer because it shows the passion for it. So when you talk about your passion for the kids, coaching them, teaching them, in and out of the classroom, on and off the court, I got to imagine your staff over the years. I know there's been changes on your staff, going back to your early days, compared to now. But what have you noticed about your staff also adapting with you year to year, whether they're good teams that are down a little bit, the different, I guess, cultures with the kids at this point, different eras where, it was vastly different, even when I was in high school, but, 10 plus years ago, how high school athletics operated. What have you noticed how's your staff evolved with you, since the beginning and even more so over the last 5 to 10 years?
Well, first of all, my freshman coach of 28 years was Paul McLaughlin, who just recently retired a few years ago. Andrew Bristol, our baseball coach, was my JV coach for about 18 years. So we haven't really had that much change. And in the last few years, I've gotten former players. Ryan Gill played for me. He's the JV coach. Tommy Bellezzi played for me back when we won the Cal in 2010. He's the freshman coach. So the camaraderie, the friendship, the respect we have for each other. And I do think you need that continuity between your staff to understand what you're trying to do. And I know that deep down inside, I don't have a whole lot of years left. I know Ryan Gill is going to be the guy who's going to step right in, and this school won't, the program won't miss a beat when he finally gets that opportunity. When you talk about your future, I know, no, I don't want to make it, just solely about, what you do and all your accomplishments. I know you want to put it back on the kids and, what they accomplish. And, I would imagine you're prouder of that. But when you look at your future and, I don't know if you think about it, because I know you just said, I don't know how many years I have left. It could be a couple, it could be a handful of more. When you at least maybe say that out loud, what goes through your head? Let me just get through this practice. Let me just get through this game. Is that how you're operating at this point? Let me see what my wife has to say. That's what I look at now, because she keeps thinking that my retirement is imminent, but I don't really think about it much. But as you get older, it's closer. No question about it. I don't plan on doing this till I'm 70. Although I'm close to that now, but no, I don't really think about it, because I enjoy going to school every day. I enjoy going to basketball every day. I don't really think about it. My body thinks about it a little bit. It reminds me every once in a while that you're not as young as you used to be, but I still enjoy the games. Like I said, we've had scrimmages. I enjoy seeing the coaches. I enjoy talking to the kids, our parents, and everything else. And so joy is really what is the reason why I keep doing this. You talk about that joy. Do you get that same feeling walking into a gym, before a season opener, before a home opener, that, you go back to your first game as head coach, where you have the nerves, you have the excitement, and then you have that passion for it. I got to imagine when you walk into Ocean City's gym and you right before tip off, you're like, okay, that feeling is still there. Even this could be, I forget how many years you've been coaching at this point, that 36, but it's got to be the same, right? It's definitely the same. It's just that. And the funny part is, as emotional as I sometimes can be on the court during a game, once that game is over, whether it's been a buzzer beater, whether it's been we lost by 25, I've learned over the years the game just ended, and go shake hands and let's go to the next game and things like that time. So, but I do enjoy watching the kids. Like, I'm always in a hurry to get kids to come over and shake hands after a big win to the other team, but it's fun watching them get excited and happy for all the hard work last year. Each win in those playoffs was exceptional. And then on the other side, it was just as disappointing watching them walk off the court after the mainland game. Mm-hmm. So my heart went out to them there, but that shows how much passion they had and how much passion I have for them to be successful. So you guys open up next week at St. Augustine Prep and at Wildwood Catholic. I believe you open up at your home opener is on the 22nd against Holy Spirit. Anything else on the schedule that maybe we're missing at this point when it comes to maybe showcase games, in-season tournaments? What do you have on the docket here? No, just we do the usual. Every year I've coached, we've gone down to Wildwood. I love those guys down there. They do a great job. But it's close. A lot of parents can get to see the games. So we'll be down there. I think we open up at Williamstown. And I know that we're in a bracket with Plainfield and Bridgeton, who's going to be tough too this year. And Plainfield understands is ranked in the state. So our first 6 or 7 games are going to be tough. St. Augustine is a real good opener for us to see where we are. And I'm expecting big things out of them. With them and Middle Township are the 2 teams that I think that you really got to keep an eye on as we go forward. Well, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on the Ocean City Red Raiders. John Bruno with me here on Cal 101, previewing the basketball season. Coach, looking forward to watching you guys this year. Good luck again, season opener at St. Augustine Prep on Tuesday. And, of course, you guys will be at Wildwood Catholic Thursday and open up at home against Holy Spirit on the 22nd. Coach, again, good luck this season. Really appreciate talking to you. And, again, I'm looking forward to this new group of the Red Raiders and see how the reset happens here in 24-25. And, once again, thanks, Nick, for all you do for coaches and the athletes and all the sports that we have year-round. Thank you very much. Absolutely. It is our pleasure. Cal 101 presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service right here on Cape Atlantic Live. We'll see you next time.